Providing health care for masses of refugees is an overwhelming endeavor. A group of medical professionals from the Bay Area has been giving their time and services traveling to other nations to help. My guests are Neuropsychiatrist Dr. Saad Shakir and Dr. Hesham Alalusi, a philanthropist who is involved in organizing humanitarian missions throughout the world. Stay with us. Dr. Shakir is a visiting professor at multiple universities and other medical education formats. Dr. Alalusi is a philanthropist who has been involved in humanitarian medical missions and other humanitarian missions in a number of nations. Thank you both for coming to be on our program and tell us what you've been doing. And I'm going to start with you, Dr. Shakir. You recently returned from mission to Jordan. And how did you become involved in that mission?
So I consider myself very fortunate that I was born in another country. I'm originally from Iraq. And I've been here most of my adult life, and my education has been here. So when I've been practicing in the area and I see the devastation going on in the Middle East primarily, but some other countries in the world, we felt a sense of urgency to try to help in any way we could. So I started actually several years ago. We formed an organization called Iraqi Medical Science Association. I was the president of that organization, and we wanted to provide humanitarian missions when Iraq was in a very bad state of war. There were about 2 million refugees between Jordan and Syria. So we mobilized our first effort about 5-6 years ago. We went there. It was a very tiring but very rewarding mission. That was how I got into trying to help. And more recently, with the Syrian refugee crisis, Dr. Alalusi and myself partnered. We talked about 3 years ago, seeing, I've known of his activities for many years, that he started helping underprivileged and poor people in the world. So I approached him, and he had the same idea that he wanted to be more involved in helping with medical missions. So we got together, we decided between his ability to do philanthropic work, raise money, and with my medical and clinical teaching abilities, we can partner and go and try to help the refugees.
Well, I'm really eager to hear details about this recent mission to Jordan, but I do want to ask you then, when did you decide to become involved in organizing humanitarian missions?
Well, the Alalusi Foundation started in 2001, organized under IRS 501c3 for humanitarian educational purposes. In 2003, the war in Iraq started. In about 2010, the Iraqi refugee situation became rather inflated. People were talking about it. We started looking into ways and means of helping the Iraqi refugees and the orphans. So at that time, we looked into ways and methods of helping the orphans, and we found out that the best way would be to extend financial support to them through their extended families, because orphanages in Iraq is just a failure, whether it's government or otherwise. So by now we have about 3,400 orphans sponsored by Alalusi Foundation. In about 2010-11, the situation of the refugees in Jordan became a very big problem. So I started personally visiting Jordan once or twice to find out what's going on. And I was shocked with the situation of the refugees in Jordan. And these are supposed to be the better off probably refugees than somewhere else. So when I came back, I started talking to my friends and relatives and others, and I got a great help from Dr. Shakir, who said, we can do something let's start doing something on this. So we start organizing on that line. We got a number of doctors with us and other health specialists, and we took an exploratory mission to Jordan. We spent about 2 weeks there. We visited centers that United Nations organize. We went to their workshops. We went to universities. We went to hospitals to try to understand what's available there, what's been done there or not, and how we can complement that. We came back, we regrouped again, and we scratched our heads together, and we felt the best thing would be to educate the people who are giving these things there. And there are very few, by the way. We estimated one day that while comparing the need in Jordan and the need in here and the populations, Jordan has about 80 psychiatrists in the private and public sector.
And
they
over
need
a
about,
million
exactly,
refugees.
and they need about 6,000. This is not including the refugees, by the way, and their special problems. The refugees have horrible, horrible problems in that regard. So we started our mission there. We partnered with the Noor al-Hussein Foundation. This is a non-governmental, non-profit organization that's well established in Jordan, and it has a number of branches there, and they welcomed the idea. So our first seminar was there. We gave a workshop for about a full week to 25 people there. These are doctors and other psychology health people. And it was very useful. They liked it very much, and we think they benefited very much from it. And then the second one, we went bigger than that. We have 75 attendees from various hospitals, schools, colleges, and other things.
So they were like beginning health professionals.
They're beginning health
themselves.
professionals, or others who would like to learn and know it. So what our team did, led by Dr. Shakir, is to transfer knowledge, transfer information to them, show them. And then we made ourselves available to them by telephone and otherwise, and emails. In case they have problems, they have questions, then they can come back and ask our team.
Well, I can just imagine, like you said, they needed health care for even regular citizens there, but in 1 million refugees, there would have to be people who would have had mental illness prior to even this, just
Absolutely.
their genetic types of illnesses. And then if you consider losing a home, losing families, losing maybe limbs, being in a camp with all those people, and the anxiety of what's coming to the future, it just I can't imagine how much terrible it would be.
It was enormous.
Right.
It was enormous. Actually, the first time we went, we visited all the refugee camps, and we were overwhelmed, and we're professionals, by the degree of devastation. You'd hear horror stories of a wife describing overnight her son and kids getting killed, and the trauma issues, and there really wasn't any help available. So our hearts were bleeding for them and said, what can we do to help? But we felt so encouraged. The health professionals there are very eager to learn from us. And they were so welcoming, and they were sending their friends. Actually, the last time we were there, if the room was big enough, we could have accommodated more people. So we're hoping to expand our program to include as many as we can. And they're at all levels, let me say. We've had some senior doctors come to the training, some psychiatrists, some family doctors. We've had also caseworkers, social workers, psychologists. By and large, everybody felt satisfied when we did the review at the end. They were very appreciative. And we felt empowered.
You felt it was worth your while to be there and helpful. And they were good. They learned well, and they appreciated. And there was no competition of the local medics. I'm sure they were very grateful.
And every time that we were there, starting with the exploratory trip, the very first one, our team was going in the afternoon to visit the refugee families in their houses. And talk to them and see what can be done about it. And that was done in the morning. They were giving lectures and meetings, and whatever. In the afternoon, they're visiting families in their houses or in the refugee camps. So that was really double action there.
And there were other medical, other than the psychiatrists, there were other medical people who were helping train ear problems and health problems, or was your team all psychiatric?
Our mission was mental health.
Okay.
Dr. Alalusi has done other ones that have included ENT and other specialties.
Right.
Ours was focusing on standards of mental health, better education, everything from diagnosis to training on how to talk to a traumatized child or adult, how to counsel them, the latest advances in treatments.
Yeah, that's another branch of Alalusi Foundation's activities. That is when we partnered with NTOs and Life Organization. Life Organization is a USA organization to help people who are in need of hearing aid. NTOs goes around the world and has been to Jordan more than once. So we joined hands with them, and we went there with a team of 35 people. The team would split every day into 2 teams, and each team would go to one of the refugee camps. There's a number of refugee camps in Jordan. We ended up treating people who are not refugees. They're in need. You know, they are Jordanians, but they're in poor areas. They cannot reach the government hospitals. If they do, they don't get much service there. So we help them by examining them, supplying them with hearing aid, checking them, giving them batteries. And the last day of our mission, we grouped the whole group, which is 35 people, and we went to one of the centers that specifically for Syrians. It's called Suriyat Across the Border. Suriyat means Syrian woman. This center is organized by 5 senior Syrian women on their own, no government help, no United Nations. And we know that they have a lot of need between Syrians and non-Syrian people there. So we organized a full day there, went early in the morning to late in the evening, and we have dinner there that day because we could not finish for that. Lunch and dinner.
And we discovered their catering abilities. They're amazing. They put a big feast, and they put an entertainment show. These are people with lost limbs and trauma. They were so appreciative. They gave speeches, they did a show, dance show, just to tell us how much they appreciated it.
They honored you.
Oh yeah, they're very appreciative. And that last day of the hearing services, that was last August, by the way, we supplied about more than 50, some of the best hearing aids for children, with everything they needed for that, starting from the testing to the very end by adjusting their things. And these were some of the best devices that you can find in the United States that we took with us there. And the people were very appreciative. However, the need is much, much more than that.
Well, now you've done missions in a lot of places. Did things in China, Afghanistan, even in the U.S. You've done some things.
Our foundation helps people who are in the States, refugees or so, to bridge a given situation. For example, an Iraqi or a Syrian doctor is a graduate of his own country. He comes here, he got to get the SMLE test to be allowed to practice in this country, but he has no means of sitting for half a year or a year to study. So we bridge that gap for them. We give them a loan, and they got to pay it later on. We do that for students of medicine, for engineers, for others, who they get in that situation, to bridge that gap quickly and then get back. As well as people, for example, we get a refugee woman that she came here a while ago, and now she got her 4 daughters given the visas to come to the United States, but she has no money to bring them here. And she has 1 month to pay for it. Otherwise, they're going to lose the visas, and that's a very, very big thing. So we give them money like that. Or people who are in extreme need for a given surgery or something like that.
Wasn't there something about some wells for Indians?
Yes, when we started in 2001, one of our biggest projects is to provide water wells in Western Sahara, Western Africa, mainly Mauritania, because we have contacts there and the need is huge. And it doesn't take very, very much to have a well there.
But it means everything.
Oh,
I know, yes.
life and death.
Exactly, exactly. These are probably not the best water wells on earth, but they provide life, you know.
And then something about goats you did in China.
Yes,
You gave some...
and that in 2001, 2, and 3, we provided some money, which is not more than $320 per family, to get 2 or 3 sheep and goats to start with. And these people are very hardworking agriculturalists, and the whole family works on that. In 2-3 years, we got reports from them and pictures. It shows that when the family was living in one little single room, now they built another room or 2 rooms.
Thanks to the goats?
Thanks to the goats. And now they have a herd of 32 of them. And they sell, you know, meat and milk and whatever.
They have an empire now.
Better than before.
By their standards, yes.
Better than before.
Really?
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you then, when you organize these things, do you have a staff that helps you make your arrangements, or are you doing this single-handedly? And also fundraising, you must need, I know Dr. Shakir is probably flying himself over and doing all these things on his own. Probably you are too.
We're volunteering our time.
That's right.
Very much so. But he provides
but
for
you
the
must need,
infrastructure.
for the hearing aids, the money has to come from somewhere.
Yes.
The medicines and so forth.
The professionals that go with us to Jordan or other places, they volunteer their time. We sponsor the trips and we sponsor the staying there. The other things that, you know, is mostly my personal money, and I receive other funds. That's how it goes. We have 1 or 2 fundraising events for the orphans, and we got some money. And we have good people that donate to us. Dr. Shakir donates his time and his money to the foundation.
Oh, you're so kind. That's supposed to be private. Thank you.
And
I
many,
had my
many other
suspicions.
people. Many people do that too. So we actually do very little bit in fundraising. I do have a staff of about 3 to 4 people that help me, plus volunteers that come once in a while and offer to do things. And with that, you know, we do all these things. We do have projects for water wells in Gaza. And West Bank, we have projects to help build hospitals and special clinics for the Palestinians there. In Iraq, we support the orphans plus some other very special projects.
Where do the orphans stay? I was just wondering, is there a safe place anywhere for an orphanage?
The orphans stay with their extended families. I can give you very specific, out of the 3,400 people that we support, we have 5 families in Sadr City. These are grandmothers. Each one has about 6 or 8 grandchildren that all are orphans. From a son or a daughter or whatever, the mother and the father were killed, and the grandmother is the only one left. In Iraq, whenever a father killed, the children and the wife would go to the brother or uncle or grandmother or grandfather. If the mother dies for any reason else, the children will remain with the grandfather. The family will never abandon them.
That's culturally, the extended family is
Extended
really
family,
it.
yeah.
You know, so.
And nowadays there are very few orphanages, but they cannot say. There's one orphanage that we support also. It's called the Amin House in Baghdad. It's headed by somebody by the name of Hesham al-Dhahabi. That house is extremely special and unique in its nature and its people. Hesham al-Dhahabi is a very unique person. He's in psychology and so on. And he started that years and years ago when he noticed, before even the war, that there are children in the streets on drugs and doing violence and stuff like that. And he started attracting them and bring them to his house. His house has 5 of his kids plus his wife, and it's a very small house. He's not rich or anything else. He's a government employee in Iraq. And then the house one day has about 30 kids there. Can't imagine. His wife said, enough is enough, do something else. So he went out and he rented a house. We got to know about him when there was a movie done by an Iraqi producer. It came to the Sundance in San Francisco. That's when I got to hear about them. So anyway, we communicated, we started supporting them. Now they have about 60 children there. For the last 3 years, they have been graduating. When they become 18, they let them go. Mr. Dhahabi, great principle that he lives with them in that house. He goes to his house once a week only, to his wife and his kids. He lives with them. He takes care of them personally. And when they become 18, he arranged for them to get a job and get married.
My goodness.
And his stories are tremendous.
What a humanitarian.
He actually wrote a book, and on our second trip, he was there, so I got to meet him. And very selfless person and very generous. And he gave each one of us a signed book to thank us for being there. So we were very impressed with him.
Yeah.
So your endeavors are massive, and they're small individuals sometimes. Just wherever you see that there's a need, you do what you can to help. And I was wondering now, what do you think is going to take place in Jordan with all these refugees? Are there more of your teams going over to train more people?
We're hoping to, yeah. So we're actually now planning our next trip. We're hoping to go March, April of 2017. And we're looking at maybe doing more advanced training, maybe having multiple level training, maybe breaking it into smaller groups where we can train those who work with children as caseworkers versus professional staff. So we're definitely empowered to go and try to help the next generation of trainees.
Well, I think it's wonderful what you both are doing. And I know that the number of people that you've helped could not even be counted. There are probably so many people you'll never know about or you'll never meet, but you've helped them.
We're hoping so. What we are doing is really, we believe, is just a drop in the ocean, nothing more than that. But I'd rather have the drop than nothing.
Exactly. And what we're looking at, one of the most delightful things, some of these students we've trained are in contact with us through email. The other day I got an email from one of my trainees, and she said, I can't tell you how much benefit I got from your lectures. Now I am teaching your lectures to my students. So, you know, it's one of those things. Education, the more you give, the more it touches more life. So we're hoping that drop can have a ripple effect and help many others over. And we're satisfied. We wish we could do more, but it steps in the right direction.
I don't think you're finished.
No, not anywhere.
So thank you both for being here.
Pleasure. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We're so happy that you've joined us for this very informative program. We love presenting information and entertainment to you, and we're so happy that you tune in to watch. Look forward to having you next time. Goodbye until then.